Good evening and welcome to the September 24, 2024 Planning Public Meetings. Members of the public were provided with the following methods to watch and or participate in this open meeting. Attend in person at the North Dumfries Community Complex. Attend electronically via Zoom to observe the meeting or to speak to an item on the agenda. Watch the live stream by accessing the meeting on our Township YouTube page, or submit written comments to the Clerk's Division, and those comments were provided to council members prior to the meeting and also for the public record. If you're here on a certain file, could you make sure you sign the sign-in sheet so any follow-up information on that file you can be contacted about. I'd now like to call the meeting to order, and can I have approval of the agenda, please?
Move by myself, by Councilor Williams, that council adopt the September 24th, 2024 council agenda planning public meeting as presented.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. I'd now like to do the Indigenous acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. But it is only words until we put it into motion. And as I've said many times before, when I met with Ava Hill here, when she was chief of the Six Nations, and we presented her with Buddy Miracle's hockey shirt, she said that's what reconciliation is. It is respect and acknowledging our history, our past, and what we've accomplished. And so that's the main thing, is as Canadians, I've always said, we respect first, and you have to lose that respect. Otherwise, we continue to respect. And I think that's what our country needs even more now. Remember to respect one another. So let's stop and pause and think about that. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Motion to commit a committee of adjustment, please, Council Williams.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Tilly, that the council meeting adjourn at 6:02 p.m. to sit as committee of adjustment for the purposes of holding public meetings pursuant to the provisions of the Planning Act.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest under the committee of adjustment? Seeing none. Minutes of the previous meeting, Councilor Tilly, please.
Moved by myself, second by Ron Goldman, that the committee adopt the September 24th, 2024 Committee of Adjustment agenda as presented.
All those in favor? It's carried, thank you. Reports and recommendations, minor variance consent application. Oh, I apologize. Oh, committee of adjustment minutes, please, Councilor Bowman.
Move myself, by Councilor Tilly, that committee adjustment approve the meeting minutes dated August 12th, 2024.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And now, reports and recommendations, minor variance and consent application, report number CAO 19-2024, appointment of the Secretary Treasurer and Deputy Secretary Treasurer for the Committee of Adjustment. And what do we need to do?
Madam Mayor, this is just I'll call it a housekeeping item. This is the appointment of a number of our secretary treasurers for the committee, given some staff changes and big changes that have occurred over the last number of months. So it's just there for the committee's approval and just to establish staff without your staff.
Thank you, Councilor Wells, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Ron Goldman, that CAO report number 19-2024 be received. The committee appoint Ashley Good as Secretary Treasurer, Kyle Kruger as the Acting Secretary Treasurer, and Andrew Amelia as the Acting Deputy Secretary Treasurer for the Committee of Adjustment for the balance of calendar year 2024.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Next, we have 6.6.2, report number PD 43-2024, consent and minor variance application. Andrew and Angela McDonald, 1392 Ridley Road, file number B 0721 and A 12/21. Notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The acting secretary treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the clerk department to request a notice of decision. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of any future meetings on this application. Michael Campos, manager of planning, will present this application. Michael, please. Go ahead.
Senator, if I may, late this afternoon, the applicant met with the planning staff. And between the two, they have suggested or requested that committee consider deferring consideration of this report and the subsequent one under 6.6.3, both in the same property. There's a number of planning files attached to those. We did distribute the request from the applicant, which was received, as I mentioned, late this afternoon. And I believe the planning staff are supportive of the concept of deferral. Students, you can attend if they wish to defer. You can pass a motion to that effect, or alternatively, of course, it is before we should consider that.
So can I have the motion and we will vote appropriately? Councilor Lund, please. You have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, I was hoping, Madam Mayor, through you to staff, whether we can have some reasoning as to why this is being different.
If I could, Madam Chair, I would refer that to the planner.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Staff met with the applicant this afternoon, who shared concerns with the conditions that were applied to the recommendation from staff. And so in an effort to provide clarification and answer those questions to the applicant ahead of a decision being made by the committee, it was agreed between both staff and the applicant that we request a deferral at this of this report to a future meeting to deal or address these clarifications before a decision can be made.
Any further questions?
Can we have more specifics around which items were causing issues?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the applicant shared some concerns regarding details of the hydrogeological study that we were reviewing through the region of Waterloo, as well as the request from the region of Waterloo for an archaeological study to be prepared in the ministry's acknowledgement to be provided as part of ahead of the final approval of the consent. There were also some concerns just regarding the development agreement that is required from the township as part of the condition of the consent application. Trying to understand the need for it and what it will look like and some of the details around that development agreement.
Any further questions? Councilor Lund.
Madam Mayor, through you to Michael Campos. So how does this impact the property readjustments we're doing along with you go with the other properties?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Ullman. The applicant also had concerns that there were some differences between the conditions of both the applications, and I think we needed some time to provide some additional clarification as to why there's differences between those two applications and what makes those differences apply to each of those applications separately.
Councilor Tilly.
So my assumption is the information became available on Thursday. This is a question through to, or just a statement actually, came through on Thursday. And then there's a reviewing of the information, and there's been some problems, and now that's what's being tried to figure out what the question is, understanding. I reviewed this as well. I noticed it's the first one I've ever noticed, and this is just a learning opportunity for myself. This is the first one I've seen an application that has the requirement to do that ministry inspection and look that I've seen in our during our committee. I was kind of surprised to see that on there, so I don't know if anybody else was surprised to see that.
Would that be a Tuesday, Michael?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe that has been applied in other scenarios as well. It is dependent on the property that is coming forward for that application. And so that is on a case by case basis, and it is a request of the region of Waterloo that comes through their comments. And yes, through Madam Mayor to Councillor Tilley, the agenda was made public on Wednesday, and the applicant was aware of the details of the conditions and was able and shared those concerns, and that is why we're requesting deferral to deal with that.
CEO McNeely.
Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Tilley, if I could just expand on the archaeological assessment. It's not uncommon on a Planning Act application to have a archaeological survey done. However, that information is typically shared at the time of pre-consultation based on a screening process. Region of Waterloo presently is the one window for the province of Ontario, does that pre-screening and shares that information in advance of the filing of applications. The region has just recently asked that be included as a condition to provisional approval. That's the unusual aspect in this case. Historically, it's done in advance. The information is submitted and the application proceeds forward in the context of understanding if there's any issues with respect to archaeological resources. In this case, if this condition continues to stand and it's part of the provision of approval, the applicant would have 2 years to undertake that archaeological assessment and satisfy what might arise from it, not knowing, prejudging what would be in that archaeological assessment. If it comes back, no issues, no concerns, and the matter is dealt with. If it escalates, in terms of there's initial findings through the site investigation as related to artifacts of significance, then there could be further reviews administered through the province of Ontario.
Go ahead.
Maybe, so the only one I've ever heard of was a $400,000 bill to is that kind of an average number, or is it something that's random in nature depending on the situation?
Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Tilley. So the property you're questioning is in also in the community. Property straddles the community of Wrigley. That property was flagged by the region as part of the pre-consultation process. The owner, as part of preparing studies in support of their Planning Act applications, retained an archaeological consultant and undertook level 1 and level 2 investigation. As a result of that work, it was revealed that there are artifacts of significance. The quote of the 400,000 had nothing to do with the preliminary work that's been done to date. The comment was, if I am to move it to a level 3 or potentially a level 4 and deal with the artifacts properly, remove them, catalog them, inventory them accordingly, that cost could be 400,000 or more. It's not a bill to date for that. If they were to pursue their Planning Act application at that location, that could potentially be a cost if they had to move forward.
Councillor Tilley, go ahead.
As I see the date of October 22nd for the next date, is there going to be a change in our North Elfries and Waterloo region's situation? This is a question to the staff, sorry. That now the region won't be involved in this property, such that they were no longer going to be part of this?
CEO McNeely.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Tilley may recall Bill 23. And key element of that legislation, remembering that was approved in November of 2022, aspects have not yet been proclaimed. One aspect of Bill 23 was that on proclamation, the region of Waterloo, amongst other named upper tier governments, including Niagara, Halton, Peel, York, and Durham, would no longer be planning authorities and would be removed from the planning process. In July 1, the first phase of municipalities were brought forward, being Peel, York, and Halton regions. So in those upper tiers, they're no longer involved in Planning Act applications, and they're only commenting agencies where there is a matter of regional interest. So as an example, if a property fronts onto a regional road, they would be able to provide planning comments on the relationship of that development application on their regional road. But it would be limited exclusively to matters of regional interest where they have a regional piece of infrastructure or property. With the full proclamation of Bill 23, historic responsibilities where the region and the other opportunities were the one window, commenting and screening on behalf of a wide range of provincial ministries. Township would be taking on that responsibility.
That does not mean that we will not follow the regulations provincially set out in planning. So if it says that it has to have the archaeological, then we will follow those rules as well. Any other questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please, Councillor Williams?
Moved by myself, seconded by Rod Roman, a consideration of consent applications B-02/24, B/03/24, and B/04/24. B, request to convey portions of property municipally known as 1392 Wrigley Road as lot additions to neighboring properties. And consent application B-07/21, B, a request to sever the property at 1392 Wrigley Road to create one new residential lot, be deferred.
So can we do the minor variance application as well, which is A-12/21?
Yes, my apologies, Madam Mayor, that should include as well in the list as the CAO noted, A-12/2021 also.
So do we really want to, so do you want to reprint this?
We can insert it after where it says B-07/21, insert and A-12/2020.
Is there A-12/21?
Correct.
You can, go ahead.
Moved by myself, seconded by Rod Roman, that consideration of consent applications B-02/24, B-03/24, and B/04/24. Being requested to convey portions of property municipally known as 1392 Wrigley Road as lot additions to neighboring properties, and consent application B-07/21 and A-12/21, being a request to sever the property at 1392 Wrigley Road to create one new residential lot, be deferred.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Next is 6.6.4, report PD-42-2024, minor variance application. Diviner Rule, 100000123450753 Ontario Inc. 33 North Cumberland Street, file number A-0224. Notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The acting secretary treasurer will record, keep a record of all persons on, who provide comments on this application and those who register with the First Division Department to request a notice of decision. These individuals will be notified of this decision or the convening of any future meetings on this application. Michael Campos, Manager of Planning, will represent this application. Michael, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, senior staff, and members of the public. I'm here this evening to present staff's recommendation on minor variance application A-02/24 for the property at 33 Northumberland Street. Subject property is located on the east side of Northumberland Street, south of Gibson Street, and north of Stanley Street. The property is municipally addressed as 33 Northumberland Street and is irregularly shaped, providing 12 meters of frontage onto the roadway and an overall area of 0.047 hectares. The property is currently occupied with an existing commercial building containing 2 commercial units. The subject property is centrally located within the Ayr urban area, surrounded by a range of residential, commercial, and open space uses, and it is listed on the Municipal Heritage Registry. On July 8th, 2024, Council approved the waiving of the requirement for the applicant to submit a cultural heritage impact assessment, given that the proposed application does not consider alterations to the actual building itself. The property is designated by the Township Official Plan as Urban Growth Center and is zoned Z6 Urban Commercial under zoning bylaw number 689-83. The subject property is currently undergoing improvements to introduce a new restaurant use into one of the 2 available commercial units. General zoning bylaw number 68983 requires that a restaurant use provide parking at a rate of 1 space for each 4.5 square meters floor area devoted to public use. As a result, the required parking for unit 1 is 9 spaces. This does not take into consideration the parking that will be required for a future use within unit 2. As the property does not provide sufficient area to accommodate all of the required parking, the applicant is seeking relief from the bylaw to permit a restaurant with a reduced parking rate. In the future, should the applicant wish to establish a use in unit 2, further parking reduction approvals may be required. Since planning staff cannot currently determine the total number of parking spaces that will be needed for a future use in unit 2, the owner will need to seek a future variance. The applicant is proposing to locate 2 parking spaces along the frontage of 33 Northumberland Street, which includes 1 type A accessible parking space and 1 standard parking space. An additional 5 parking spaces are proposed within the boundary of 35 Northumberland Street, which is under the same ownership as the subject property and immediately to the north. These 5 spaces will be dedicated to the employees and visitors of the commercial unit situated at 33 Northumberland Street. The owner, as a condition of the variance, will enter into a parking agreement with the township to reflect this parking situation between the properties. In order to accommodate the proposal, the applicant is seeking relief from the following provisions of the general zoning bylaw as set out as follows. Section 2.160 of the general zoning bylaw, number 68983, establishes that the definition for off-street parking space, which specifically states that such spaces are to be located to the rear of the building line, whereas the applicant is proposing to locate 2 parking spaces in front of the existing building line. The applicant is seeking relief from this definition in order to permit an off-street parking space to be located in front of the established building line. Section 6.13.1b of the general zoning bylaw, number 68983, establishes that all off-street parking areas shall be situated to the rear of the building line or lines, whereas the applicant is proposing to situate 2 parking spaces in front of the established building line. And finally, section 6.13.5 of general zoning bylaw, number 689-83, establishes that a restaurant use is to provide 1 space for each 4.5 square meters of floor area devoted to public use, which equates to 9 total parking spaces for unit 1. The applicant is seeking relief from the required parking rate and is proposing to provide a maximum of 2 parking spaces per unit 1 within the boundaries of the subject property and 5 spaces off-site at 35 Northumberland Street. The slide on your screen provides a photo taken of the subject property on a site visit completed on May 8th, 2024. It provides a visualization of both the subject property and of 35 Northumberland Street, which is the vacant lot immediately to the left of the existing commercial building. As can be seen by this image, there is limited space to accommodate parking on the subject property. The asphalt immediately in front of the commercial building is the only available space to accommodate vehicles. 35 Northumberland will accommodate an additional 5 parking spaces to support the uses within the subject property through a parking agreement that will be entered into between the township and the applicant. No correspondence was received from members of the public as part of this application. With respect to agency correspondence, there were no concerns or objections to the applications. It is noted that Township and Engineering and Public Works Department had commented that the proposed parking space located within the boundaries of the subject property may impede pedestrian sidewalks. However, planning staff can confirm that the parking stalls are completely within the limits of the property and meet the minimum required stall size set by the zoning bylaw. It is the opinion of planning staff that the proposed variances being sought through this minor variance application successfully meet the 4 tests for a minor variance as follows. The proposed variances are considered minor in nature as the applicant is simply seeking to recognize the existing built conditions of the subject property while providing the maximum number of feasible parking spaces. The only available lot area to accommodate these spaces is within the front yard in front of the established building line, and therefore the applicant is seeking relief from the general zoning bylaw in this regard. Secondly, the proposed variances are considered to be desirable and compatible with adjacent uses and properties. The proposed parking spaces are accessible via the existing access from Northumberland Street and are sufficiently sized to meet the minimum parking stall size requirements of the bylaw. The applicant has also provided both 1 accessible space and 1 standard space within the subject property boundaries. Similarly, other commercial businesses along Northumberland Street and along Stanley Street face challenges in providing on-site parking and rely on off-street parking and reduced parking requirements to support the urban commercial area. Third, the proposed variances continue to maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan, which is to support the existing urban growth center by promoting and encouraging commercial uses and a pedestrian-oriented downtown core, while committing to the preservation of existing listed and designated properties within the area community. And finally, the proposed variances continue to maintain the general intent and purpose of the general zoning bylaw, which is to provide for urban commercial uses and to ensure that parking is provided and available for those who live, work, and visit the urban growth center. Furthermore, the subject property is located adjacent to an existing vacant gravel lot to the immediate north, known as 35 Northumberland. And this property has historically been used as a supplemental parking area for the commercial uses within the building on the subject property. The owner has agreed to continue the use of the property as supplemental parking to 33 Northumberland and will enter into a parking agreement with the township to maintain this property as a parking area for the commercial units, further supporting staff's position. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation to the Committee of Adjustment that PD Report 42-2024 be received, and that minor variance application A-02/24 for Unit 1 of 33 Northumberland Street being a request for relief from Section 2.160 General Zoning Bylaw number 68983 to permit off-street parking spaces to be located in front of the established building line. Relief from Section 6.13.1 of B of General Zoning Bylaw number 68983 to permit off-street parking to be located in front of the established building line. And relief from Section 6.13.5 of General Zoning Bylaw to permit a maximum of 2 parking spaces for Unit 1 be provided, whereas a total of 9 spaces are required. Be approved subject to the following condition: that the applicant enters into a parking agreement with the Township of North Dumfries to be registered on the title of the property. The agreement shall confirm the allocation of off-site parking for 33 Northumberland Street on the adjacent property to the north, municipally addressed as 35 Northumberland Street, with the provision that a minimum of 5 off-street parking spaces be accommodated within the property boundaries of 35 Northumberland Street in support of 33 Northumberland Street. Thank you very much. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Michael. Would the applicant like to make any comments? Seeing none, any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Again, seeing none, councillors, any questions or comments? Can I please have the motion, Councillor Rowland?
Moved by myself, and by Councillor Tilley, that the report number 42-2024 be received, and then minor variance application A-0224 for Unit 1 of 33 Northumberland Street, the request to permit relief from Section 2.160 of General Zoning Bylaw number 689-83 to permit off-street parking spaces to be located in front of the established building line. B, relief from Section 6.13.1B of General Zoning Bylaw number 689-83 to permit off-street parking to be located in front of the established building line. And C, relief from Section 6.13.5 of General Zoning Bylaw number 689-83 to permit a maximum of 2 parking spaces for Unit 1 provided, whereas a total of 9 parking spaces are required. Be approved, subject to the following condition: that the applicant enters into a parking agreement with the Township of North Dumfries to be registered on the title of the property. The agreement shall confirm the allocation of off-street parking for 33 Northumberland Street on the adjacent property to the north, municipally addressed as 35 Northumberland Street, with provision that a minimum of 5 off-street parking spaces be accommodated in the property boundaries of 35 Northumberland Street in support of 33 Northumberland Street.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next up is 6.6.5 report PD 44/2024 minor variance application Scott Williams 43 Sylvan Drive, file number A-09/24. Notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The acting secretary treasurer will keep a record of all persons who have provided comments on this application and those who register with the clerk's department to request a notice of decision. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or of the convening of any future meetings on this application. Christina Blazanovic, planning GIS technician, will present this application. Christina, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The following presentations for minor variance application A-09/24 for the property located at 43 Sylvan Drive. The purpose of this meeting is to advance a recommendation for the committee's consideration on the merits of the application. The property is located west of the intersection of West River Road and Sylvan Drive in the Riverview settlement area. This property consists of a single detached dwelling and accessory buildings. The property is approximately 1 acre in size with a lot frontage of 30 meters onto Sylvan Drive. Surrounding land uses are primarily rural residential, and this property is zoned Z3 rural residential and designated settlement residential and ancillary in the township official plan. The owner proposes to facilitate the construction of a single-story addition with a walkout on the west side of the dwelling. The proposed addition is approximately 126 meters squared and will consist of a two-car garage, master bedroom, mudroom, and bathroom. The proposed addition will extend further towards the street line than the front wall of the existing dwelling and will require a variance for a reduced front yard setback. There is an existing retaining wall structure located along the eastern property line. The retaining wall structure is approximately 16 meters in length and approximately 1.47 meters in height at the tallest point. A portion of this retaining wall structure encroaches onto the adjacent property located at 45 Sylvan Drive, as shown in the image on the screen. As per section 2.213 of the general zoning bylaw, this retaining wall is considered a structure and is subject to the regulations set out under section 6.4 of the general zoning bylaw. A variance is required for a reduced setback for this retaining wall structure. As mentioned during the public meeting, the owner proposed to enter into an encroachment agreement with the property owners of 45 Sylvan Drive to address the portion of the retaining wall structure that extends over the property line of the subject property. Since the public meeting, the owner has prepared an encroachment agreement and is in the process of having it registered on title. The owner is requesting the following variances. Section 6.4.2 of the general zoning bylaw establishes that no persons shall erect any accessory structure closer than 1 meter or 3 feet from any interior or rear lot line. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit an existing retaining wall structure to have a setback of 0 meters off the east property line. And secondly, section 6.10.1 of the general zoning bylaw establishes that the building setback shall be a distance equal to the distance between the street line and the closest point of the existing building. The current building line of the subject property is 9.17 meters, and the owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a building line of 8.19 meters. The photo on the top left of the screen is the existing elevation of the dwelling from Sylvan Drive, and the photo in the bottom right is the proposed elevation from Sylvan Drive. There has been no correspondence received from any members of the public, and there have been no objections from any internal or external agencies. Planning staff is of the opinion that the requested variance meets the 4 tests of a variance as outlined by the Planning Act. The first being that the variance is minor in nature, the reduced front yard setback from 9.17 to 8.19, and the 0 meter setback for the retaining wall are minimal adjustments that do not create negative impacts on the neighboring properties or the overall character of the area. Secondly, that the variance is desirable. The proposed addition of the garage, bedroom, and mudroom is appropriate for the residential use of the land. It enhances the functionality of the property while keeping with the character of the area. And the encroachment agreement for the retaining wall ensures legal resolution with the neighboring properties. Third, that the variance meets the intent of the bylaw. The proposed variances for the reduced front yard setback and retaining wall do not compromise the general purpose of the zoning bylaw, which is to regulate the placement and structure of buildings. This proposed addition is permitted within the rural residential zone. And lastly, that the variance meets the intent of the official plan. The property is designated for low density residential. The proposed addition maintains the primary residential use and aligns with the neighborhood's low density residential character. Planning staff recommend that minor variance application A09/24 be approved subject to the conditions listed under the recommendation section of PD report number 44/2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Would the applicant like to speak? Would anybody in the public like to speak on this matter? Councilors? Okay, can I have the motion, please, Councilor Tilley?
Moved by myself, second by Alida Williams, the PD report number 44-2/2024 be received, and that minor variance application A-09/24 being a request of permit an existing retaining wall to have a setback of 0 meters off the east property line, whereas section 6.4.2 of the general zoning bylaw 689-83 establishes no person shall erect any accessory building structure closer than 1 meter from any interior or rear lot line. B, a building line of 8.19 meters, whereas section 6.10.1 of the general zoning bylaw 689-83 establishes that the building setback shall be a distance equal to the distance between the street line and the closest point of the existing building. The existing building line of the subject property is 9.17 meters. Be approved, subject to the following condition. That the owner register an encroachment agreement on the title of the subject property that acknowledges the portion of the retaining wall structure that encroaches onto the adjacent parcel land located at 45 Sylvan Drive, the owner must provide confirmation that the encroachment agreement has been registered on title prior to the township building department issuing a building permit. And two, that the owner reduces the retaining wall structure in length on the western side of the property to maintain a minimum setback of 1 meter setback on the western property line.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Can I have the adjournment of the committee of adjustment, please, Councilor Roman?
Moved by myself, by Councilor Tilly, that pursuant to the Planning Act, public meeting, committee adjustment, be adjourned at 6:35 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And, next to Council Williams, the correspondence, please. Are there any comments first or about correspondence or anything? I haven't seen any correspondence. Oh, just down here. Oh, okay, all right. So next is 7.1.1, proposed report PD 41/2024, proposed official plan amendment, file number OP-01/24, proposed zoning bylaw amendment, file number ZC-02/24, proposed draft plan of condominium, file number 30CDM-24301, and Cedar Creek Road Holdings, Inc., 2509 Cedar Creek Road. Notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The clerk will keep a record of all persons who provided comments on this application and those who registered with the clerk's department to request a notice of decision. These individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meeting on this application. Michael Campos, Manager of Planning, will present this application. Michael, please.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. I'm here to present to you a public information report relating to official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and vacant land condominium applications received for the property at 2509 Cedar Creek Road. And the purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of the proposal received, to solicit comments, and to identify issues or matters to be assessed by staff as we move forward with the review of the application. So the property is located on the south side of Cedar Creek Road, just south of Highway 401 and east of Earl Thompson Road. The property has a lot frontage of approximately 220 meters onto Cedar Creek Road and is 18 hectares in size. Previously, the property was occupied. Oh, my apologies. I think I just lost my slides here. Previously, the property was occupied with a farmhouse and ancillary building that was removed in August 2023. And it presently contains remnants of the stone residence as well as one ancillary structure that remains. The property is primarily vacant agricultural land, and surrounding uses consist of agricultural lands and industrial uses. The property is designated Greenfield Area, Highway 401/Regional Road 97 Employment Area, and Rural Employment Area on map 2, and industrial/commercial on map 2.27 of the Township Official Plan. The property is split zoned Z11 industrial and Z12 open space, and is subject to site-specific exemption 20.1.200 under zoning bylaw number 68983. The following slide provides some photos of the property taken during a site visit. And so the first photo is the access to the subject property that exists today. And this leads back to the existing stone or former stone building and the remnants of that stone building as shown on photos 2 and 3 of this slide. Photo 4 provides a visualization of the remaining balance of the lands, which is primarily agricultural and vacant. As can be seen in figure 4. And so the applicant has submitted applications to facilitate the creation of an industrial subdivision that will contain 7 industrial lots, one stormwater management facility, and an access road with a bulb end that will provide access to all the lots. The applicant intends to use one industrial lot for a transportation operation use that will serve as a parking lot for vehicle fleets of associated trucking enterprises. There is no intent to build an industrial building on that lot. The remaining lots are proposed to be sold for the purpose of being developed for other industrial related uses. Proposed lot sizes range in size between 1.966 hectares and 2.021 hectares. The stormwater management facility will be approximately 2.011 hectares in size, and the access road will have a total size of 2.202 hectares. And so the image on your screen there shows the proposal. Cedar Creek Road is on the left-hand side. Street A is the access road that is proposed that will give access to the 7 proposed industrial lots. The very far end block A block there is for the stormwater management facility. The subject property is a listed resource on the township's municipal register, and the former stone building that existed on the site prior to its removal in 2023 held historical significance. It was likely built and constructed between the 1840s and the 1850s. The residence was demolished without permission or permits from the township of North Dumfries, and the applicant has submitted a documentation and commemoration report with their planning applications that will be peer reviewed by an outside heritage consultant and brought forward to Heritage Committee prior to a final report being considered by council. This report provides an overview of the property and the former residence and details the commemoration options for the heritage resource, which includes salvage options, on-site commemoration, and or the documentation of the former residence. The purpose of the official plan amendment that was submitted is being requested to amend or remove special policy area 2.9.3.2.3D so that it no longer prohibits the severance of the lands, thereby reducing the size of the parcel. So as you can see on your screen, that is the special policy that is being requested to be amended. It states that lands identified as within the special policy area may be used for the purpose of a trucking terminal and associated ancillary uses, subject to the following: that the regulations of the zoning bylaw recognize the existing lot frontage and area of the subject lands and prohibit any future severances which would reduce the size of the parcel. Therefore, the official plan amendment will seek to amend this policy so that the applicant can move forward with an application to create multiple industrial lots that are smaller in size. And without an amendment, staff could not support the creation of smaller industrial parcels on this property. The zoning bylaw amendment was submitted for the lands to amend the current site-specific exemption 20.1.200, which restricts the property to a minimum lot area of 18 hectares and a minimum lot frontage of 220 meters. And so the zoning amendment will amend that site-specific provision to permit reduced lot sizes to accommodate the future creation of the smaller industrial lots. As well, it will rezone the entirety of the subject property to Z11 industrial, thereby removing the Z12 open space zone from the lands. And finally, a vacant land condominium application was submitted to the region of Waterloo, and that application is required to divide the property into the 7 industrial lots, creating those lots the one common element stormwater management facility block, as well as a common element shared access road known as Street A. Notification of the application and the date of the public meeting was circulated to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property, and a notification sign was also posted along the frontage of the property on Cedar Creek Road. And at this time, no comments have been received from members of the public. Any comments received at today's public meeting or leading up to a future decision meeting will be addressed through a future staff recommendation report.
Thank you, Michael. I believe the planner does want to speak. Cantion, yes?
Not quite finished the presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Almost done.
I'm
Thank you,
sorry.
Madam Mayor.
I thought you were done. Sorry.
And so the staff's recommendation to staff to council that all comments and correspondence received from members of the public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for a future report to council on the disposition of this matter. And staff will be considering matters for future recommendation report to the committee, including all comments and correspondence received during the consultation process, the effect of the proposed development on matters of provincial interest, whether the proposed amendments continue to maintain the general intent and purpose of the township and regional plans. If the subject proposal, in the opinion of staff, is desirable for the property, compatible with adjacent uses and properties. And some of the factors to be assessed will include the density, scale, height, massing, and mix of industrial uses, visual impact, building setbacks, including side and rear yards, and the shape and configuration of the industrial lots and how this potentially affects parking areas, site circulation, etc. Whether the recommendations within the supporting studies have been considered and incorporated into the proposal. So further review of the submitted studies by internal departments and outside agencies will be had. A review of available options relating to the documentation and commemoration of the listed heritage resource, the impact of the proposed development on surrounding properties, and appropriate mechanisms to ensure responsive site development, such as demonstrating appropriate parking, access to the property, grading and drainage, and amongst other matters. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Michael. And now, would you like to come and speak up? And
from the staff and members of the public. Thank you for the opportunity to present this application on behalf of Cedar Creek Holdings Inc. My colleague Kevin and myself, Kanchan, we present Stantec and our consultants on this project. We are here to present the application for an official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of condominium for 2509 Cedar Creek Park. The site is located at 2509 Cedar Creek Road within the township of North Dockfield. It spans approximately 18 hectares and most recently was used as agricultural land. The property has a frontage of 220 meters along Cedar Creek Road and a depth of 785 meters. An existing farmhouse and auxiliary building were demolished in August 2023. The surrounding land uses include industrial properties to the north and west and agricultural lands to the south and east. This property has multiple land use designations, which include designated greenfield area and Highway 407 Regional Road 97 Employment Area, Rural Employment Area, and Dry Industrial Commercial Wellhead Protection Area, and Mineral Aggregates Resource Areas in the regional and township sufficient land. The proposal seeks to create a vacant land condominium consisting of 7 industrial lots ranging from 1.96, that is 4.86 acres, to 2.02 hectares, that is 4.99 acres, a stormwater management block of 2.01 hectares, and a shared access road which will occupy a total area of 2.2 hectares. One of these lots will be used for transportation operations for truck fleets, while the others will be available for sale for various industrial uses. The application seeks an official plan amendment which aims to remove a restriction that prohibits further severance of existing parcels. Additionally, zoning bylaw amendment seeks to relax site-specific exemption 20.1.200, which requires a minimum lot size of 18 hectares and a frontage of 220 meters, and rezone the subject lands as industrial in its entirety. This will allow industrial lots that are very similar to the lots of neighboring developments. And you can see this. This is also keeping in line with the regional and township's official plan objectives for employment growth in this area. Our team had a pre-consultation meeting with the township and regional staff in December 2021. Based on the discussion, subsequent concept plan for develop. Subsequently, the concept plan was further developed and preparation of the studies required for the proposal were prepared, and the current proposal for the vacant land condominium was developed. This application was submitted in June 2024. The proposal was reviewed through the lens of the nested provincial policy and planning and policy framework, the analysis of which was submitted in the planning justifications of report submitted along with the applications. The proposal aligns with the economic objectives, growth objectives of the PPS and will create industrial employment uses similar to those of adjacent land. The proposed development will benefit from the proximity of Highway 401 that the subject lands provide and is ideal for transportation operations and allied industrial uses. The growth plan of the Greater Golden Horseshoe also promotes efficient land use and increased employment densities and is designated employment areas. The proposed vacant land condominium will enable the creation of industry supportive land parcels that will enable employment densities required by the growth plan. The subject site is located within the designated greenfield area in the Highway 401 Regional Roads 97 employment area as shown in map 3E of the Region of Waterloo Official Plan. Policy 2.F.1 of the Regional Official Plan encourages land uses such as privately serviced logistics, warehousing and industrial uses that could leverage the access of Highway 401 to efficiently move goods into and out of the region. The lots proposed to the vacant land condominium primarily serve this policy of the regional plan through the planned transportation enterprise and associated uses. The township's official plan designates the site as designated greenfield area, Highway 401 Regional Road 97 employment area, rural employment area, and dry industrial commercial. The dry industrial designation provides for a range of light industrial uses and related activities similar to the uses of general industrial designation, which includes public garages, sales and services, and industrial or commercial motor vehicles or motorized equipment, building contractors' yards. Commercial uses within rural employment areas also enable the development of the proposed transportation enterprise because of its reliance on the Highway 401. Highway 401 Regional Road 97 employment designation also allows privately serviced logistics and warehousing uses. Lands identified as special policy area 2.9.3.2.3 allow trucking enterprises as proposed as long as they fulfill the conditions of the policy. In conclusion, the proposed use is permitted through the township's official plan, except that further subdivision is not permitted. An official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment is therefore required to make market feasible industrial use lots. This project will contribute significantly to the local employment base with a target of 25 jobs per hectare. The industrial lots will offer opportunities for business in trucking services and allied industries. The site's proximity to Highway 401 makes it particularly advantageous for the proposed use, which relies on efficient transportation links and aligns with the regional goals of maximizing employment uses near major transportation corridors. Based on the pre-consultation, a number of studies were undertaken to understand the implications and feasibility of the proposal. The archaeological assessment report and documentation were completed and submitted to the Ontario Public Register for review and entry in accordance with Part 6 of the Ontario Heritage Act. An EIS was submitted and reviewed by the region. The region has provided comments, which will be addressed in the subsequent submissions, which will continue efforts to integrate the region's EIS guidelines. The traffic impact study submitted was deemed sufficient by the region. At the SPA stage, the region has requested a TIS, site plan amendment stage, application stage. The region has requested a TIS addendum with detailed calculations and an approved function design, cost estimate, letter of credit and agreement to the satisfaction of the regional solicitor. Our team will work with the township staff on comments as they are received on all material submitted with the application in the subsequent stages of the project. The colleague Kevin will now explain the post and pre-development drainage of this.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd like to take an opportunity to explain the drainage strategy or existing conditions of the property to council members and staff. The subject property located in the center is impacted by adjacent lands that are draining into it. Directly north of Cedar Creek is an industrial lands that are actually draining essentially to a road right away, and crosses through a culvert underneath Cedar Creek, crossing onto the subject lands, as well as the industrial development lands to the west, including municipal stormwater management facility. Currently today drains and crosses the subject lands as well. This resulted in a bit of a strategy of how do we manage those external drainage patterns such to maintain the existing discharge to lands to either to the east and so on. So the next slide here you'll see is our proposed catchment area plan. May be a bit difficult to see here, but essentially what we've done is the strategy is such to convey the existing Cedar Creek drainage from the road right of ways as well as the lands to the north through a bypass pipe that wrap around to the east side of the lands and then ultimately draining out onto the adjacent farmer's field as it does today. And then essentially we conveyed the drainage from the existing municipal stormwater management facility located to the west and the industrial lots to the west of our subject property are draining down the western property line south across the bottom essentially, and then gets conveyed to the east. Unfortunately, the way how this is configured in existing topography, the subject lands does not have what's considered a legal outlet. And legal outlet is when you have defined bed and banks, or say a pipe or some sort of discharge point to, that you can release flows to. In this case here, because it is flat farmers fields, it sheet flows to the lands to either to the east or to the south, resulting in a situation where we have to propose our swim facility. We propose essentially a drainage ditch that conveys that drainage east on the neighboring lands where permission will be obtained, conveys it to the east and ultimately makes its way to the Cedar Creek, Roseville, I believe so Roseville actually some watershed there and Cedar Creek drainage area. So it's a bit of a unique situation, but just to understand the context of the external areas that are impacting this property.
Sorry for the next slides. The proposed official plan amendment essentially requests to amend the official plan to no longer prohibit severance of the existing lot into smaller industrial lots by the removal of provisions of section 2.9.3.2.3.d on the subject lands. Further, a zoning bylaw amendment is also requested to rezone the subject lands as industrial zone 11.11, zone 11. In its entirety and removal of the existing site-specific exemption 20.1.200 that requires a minimum lot size of 18 hectares and a frontage of 220 meters to facilitate the proposed vacant land condominium. The proposed industrial parcel sizes will enable the appropriate use of the lands for transportation fleet operations and other associated industrial uses in the single location. This is the proposed text of the OPMZBA. We are requesting that the zoning bylaw amendment allow for a minimum lot size of 1.9 hectares, a minimum lot frontage of 89 meters, and rezoning zone Z12 to zone 11. The proposed vacant land draft plan of condominium will enable the creation of 7 industrial lots, 1 common element stormwater management facility, which will improve the storm management of the site, and a shared access road. Addressing the staff report issues, key issues raised in the staff report, such as the need for traffic impact updates and ensuring effective stormwater management, are being actively addressed by our team as we receive the comments on the application. Our team will continue actively working on the feedback received from peer reviews and is committed to incorporating any required updates or addendums to align with staff and regional expectations. We are preparing a response matrix to address the comments received from RJ Burnside and Associates Limited. This proposal represents a significant opportunity for the township to enhance the employment lands, supporting both local and regional economic objectives. We believe this development will contribute positively to the community, and we are committed to addressing all planning and technical issues raised to ensure a smooth and beneficial outcome for all stakeholders. Thank you, and we'll be happy to.
Thank you very much. Councillors, any member of the public that wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, councillors, any questions? Councillor Rowland, and I have to step up, so Councillor, will you take the chair, please, Councillor Williams? Thank you. You got it. One things, her to sign the motion, thank you. I'll be back.
Councillor Roman.
Thank you, Vice Deputy Mayor. My question is, I have two questions. First question is, through you to staff. Was there any, I'm concerned about stormwater management. I was wondering, is there any ability on this site to better contain stormwater on site through, infiltration galleries or something of that nature?
Through, Madam Mayor to Councilor Rowland, we are, reviewing that, and RJ Burnside has been our township consultant engineer is, reviewing that application, providing comments. I don't have that information, at this time, but I can share that with you, tomorrow, based on his first review of the application.
My second question, through your chair to the staff is, I'm concerned about the demolition of the heritage building, heritage resource. I'm just curious, what charges have been laid under the building code or under section 27.3 of the Ontario Heritage Act?
Councillor Rowland, as we speak today, there have been no charges laid. The chief building official continues to assess the events of August 2023. It was flagged at the time of the pre-consultation in year 2021, but there was a listed residence, so it was known to the owner. And what process would be followed as part of a complete application. But as we speak today, charges have not been filed under the Ontario Building Code or under under abilities under the Ontario Heritage Act in favor of the municipality.
Do you have any further questions? My main concern through to staff is with regards to the traffic impact study. Area there is already super busy with trucks and everything else, and I'm just concerned about having another entrance onto Cedar Creek Road right next to a whole lot of other entrances onto Cedar Creek Road. All right, I think we can proceed with the motion.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Roman, that PD report number 41-2024 be received, and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process return to staff for further consideration in our future report to council on the disposition of this matter.
All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We can now move towards the conformatory bylaws. The first and second reading, please, I believe, is that Councillor Tilly? Very good. Councillor Roman, please.
Thank you. With myself and by Councillor Tilly, the following bylaws be read a first and second time. Bylaw number 350-24, being a bylaw to confirm proceeding with council, the corporation of Township of Dunkers at this meeting held September 24th, 2024.
Alderman. Motion carried. The second reading of the bylaw, please. Third reading, sorry. Third and final.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Roman, that bylaw number 3508-24 be read a third and final time, be signed, sealed, and by the mayor and clerk.
All in favor? Motion carried. Can I have the adjournment now, please, Councillor Roman?
With myself and by Councillor Tilly, that was council planning public meeting has been completed at 7:03 p.m. Be resolved at this meeting adjourned.
All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. That will.